Hello everybody and welcome to another Beyblade video. I'm Citrus Ninja Gaming and this is tournament training. That rhymed. This Sunday I'm going to a WBO tournament in Brooklyn called Empire City Strikes Back, which is hosted by Laser Beams. The tournament has already reached its limit of 40 participants, which was put in place by Laser Beams because this is his first time hosting a tournament, and it's not the usual, it's not the usual cap of, I think it's 25 people for your first tournament, because he has helped other people in before, and he has some people helping him this time. So this tournament is in the standard burst format with the double elimination bracket format. In this video I'll be talking about the basics that you need to know if you want to go to this kind of tournament. So like a deck format tournament might not have the same rules. Actually, they have more limitations because you can't repeat parts between different Beyblades. If you're playing in a deck format, limited format has a lot more restrictions. Or not limited format, Burst Classic has a lot more restrictions because it's for the older generations of Beyblade Burst. And I think that's it, yeah. Because they're only Burst Classic deck format, Burst Standard, and then Burst Standard Burst format, deck format. So anyway, this will be just a normal format, not deck format. So the first thing is, the battles must take place in the Beyblade Burst Dekaratomi Base Stadium Standard Type. That was a mouthful. But basically this stadium. Some things about like wear and tear. You can't have any cracks on the floor. Any cracks on the walls have to be taped up. And then you have to use these pegs. This is important. You have to use these 3 pegs that come with the stadium. I mean, if you have another one of this exact same stadium, or another stadium that uses these exact same pegs, you can use those. It's fine. Just as long as you use pegs and not something like tape that would change how the walls work, because like the little shaking, if you don't like the shaking, well, too bad, you have to have it, because otherwise some things might be a little bit different. Like every rotation matters in Beyblade. So then something that's kind of more of an in-battle thing, you cannot touch the stadium. Like if I'm using an attack type that's making the stadium move a little bit, I can't just do this, because then that'll make the Beyblade go a little bit crazier and hit the wall instead of using its speed to move the stadium. It'll just hit the wall and then possibly go to the center. That is kind of unfair. That's handicapping your opponent, I guess. So it's not allowed to touch you're not allowed to touch the stadium for that, and also because you might accidentally move the stadium during the battle, which could also be problematic. And also you could change the stadium orientation. So actually, just pretend this is how I'm facing. So you won't have this exact orientation. You'll actually have more of an angle, like what you usually see in my videos. Although I'm facing this way, so I would be launching against that wall. So it has to be like at an angle where both players have an equal like amount of the wall that's covering their launch, or that's like making it so that their launch is successful. Like, you don't want to handicap one player or another just because of the stadium orientation. And yes, the stadium might move in the middle of a battle, If that happens, then the judge will just fix it in between rounds. And then the last thing is, if you don't have this stadium and you're not the one that's hosting the tournament, you don't have a problem. You don't have to bring one, but it's just a thing to note. If you don't have this stadium, you might be in for a little bit of a different experience. Okay, next up, launchers and launching. So, rule number 1, you have to use an official launcher. It can be a Hasbro launcher or a Takara Tomy launcher. It doesn't matter as long as it's not a fake launcher. You cannot use fake products in any tournaments for any reason whatsoever. Because those might be a little bit different. And also because they're most likely worse in quality. Wait. Just getting something out. So, yeah. Like, don't bring any fake products, obviously. So, let's say I have this launcher setup. It's a pretty standard launcher setup. I think this is the B66 Bay Launcher LR with just a grip. Like, it's standard. But in the middle of a match, you can't go like this. You have to start off with this launcher. If you start off with this launcher setup, you can't take the grip off, put it somewhere else, or even like change up your launcher, like take the Phoenix winder or something. Like, you can't. You have to stick with your launcher setup. But you can switch rotations if you have Legend Spriggan. But if you're using a Legend Spriggan and you only have a right spin launcher and you want to go into left spin, well, too bad. If you don't have an LR launcher and you have Legend Spriggan and you're trying to change the mode, you're not allowed. So, oh yeah, here's a rule that I found interesting when I first learned about it. So, let's say this is the launcher setup you're using with the Dragon Winder and a grip. So, this is usually how you launch with the Dragon Winder, right? You pull it out, right? Well, let me just do something special. So, this is an illegal launch. If you go like this and just push it in. I don't know why you would do that, but that's actually in the rule book. So I thought it was worth noting and trying out, even though it really sucked. Also, something to note, make sure that your launcher setup is not too intrusive, because you're limited to your half of the stadium. This is my half. This would be my opponent's half. If I try to interfere with the opponent's launcher, might get disqualified, might just get a point taken away or something, or might just lose the point. So yeah, try to stay on your side as much as possible. And then you can't have this launcher in here. Like, you can't just launch like that. Like, that could interfere with the other bay. Like, the other bay could land on top of your launcher and then lose stamina or burst or something. Or even, break. Oh god. Alright, let me just... Okay, good. Anyway, also, you can't just have it, way too high up. If you have it this high up compared to the stadium, that could kind of delay the landing. I mean, not that much, but it could. And then you could land on top of the opponent's Beyblade, and that would be kind of cheap. Then the next thing is, the judge is going to say 3, 2, 1, go shoot. So when they say shoot, that's when you launch. So 3, 2, 1, go shoot. Or they'll say like, bladers ready. 3, 2, 1, go shoot. Oh, this launcher does not want to behave. So don't launch too early, don't launch too late. You might get a point taken away. And then here's something weird. Like if you launch too weak because of something that's like completely out of your control, like someone bumped into you or your launcher malfunctioned, you have to say it like immediately or as soon as possible, so that the judge can think of, or can, like, the judge can say, I think the launch is fine, or I think you said it too late, or they'll just redo the point and no one gets points taken away, or no one wins points. That's what I meant to say. And yeah, that's launching rules. Now for the battle. A match ends when one blader gets 3 points. So for spin finish, where one Beyblade outspins the other Beyblade, so one Beyblade is left spinning and the other one just falls to the, like, yeah, boom, that's a spin finish. Then you get 1 point for that. Then you get 1 point for knocking your opponent out of the stadium. And then you get 2 points for bursting the opponent. Then there are 2 additional ways to lose, or to win, to get points. And that is, these are like the 2 that are unintentional. But like, if in the middle of the battle, and you're using a God Bay, and the God chip falls off, that immediately counts as 1 point. Technically counts as a burst finish, but it's only 1 point instead of 2. And then something else is, like, if, oh my god, if like your frame falls off in the middle of the battle, that also counts as a burst, but it's only 1 point. So it's 1 point for the person whose God chip or frame did not fall off. So then, if your Beyblade breaks in the middle of a match, you have to replace the part with another of the same like part. So let's say I'm using, I don't know, Twin Nemesis, 8-dash, cross, spiral, and then all of a sudden the Nemesis layer just snaps in half or something. I have another Nemesis layer. I'm not sure if you can use a different colored version of it. I'm pretty sure you can, but you have to ask the judge. I have not seen it happen. But if you can't find if you can't find a replacement that's exactly the same, like the exact same mode and stuff, then you just get you lose the whole match instead of losing a point. And then the same thing applies for when if your Beyblade, let's say, I don't know, Dead Hades here, he gets all 3 clicks and he goes like this all the way, where he would literally just burst, but he's right there where he should burst, and it just gets stuck, and the judge sees that all of the clicks have been lost, and the base still hasn't bursted, then you have to do the same thing. So like, oh yeah, my nemesis got stuck after it already took all of its clicks and should have bursted. Well, if you don't have the other nemesis, then you will also lose the match, because that could be considered an illegal modification. Like, no one knows if that was intentional or not. Then here comes the more, I don't know. Here comes the Beyblade part limitations. I don't know what I was trying to say here. So there are actually no banned parts as of right now in the standard burst format, which means Takeratomi format, or all Beyblades format. All Beyblade burst format. There are no flat out bans, but there are some limitations. So like, let's take Josie Spriggan here. Josie Spriggan Zero Wall Zeta Dash, like stock combo. Mode changes have specific rules. So the driver, you can just switch it after every round if you want, because that does not require disassembly. If you're using something like Twin Nemesis, and you want to change the mode, well, you can only change the mode of the layer. You can only change the mode of a part that requires disassembly to change if like once per match. What am I saying? Anyway, I don't know if the same rule applies to a frame like turn, where you can just take it off, then put it on upside down. But I'd better not say that you guys should do that, because better safe than sorry. So make sure you have the turn frame in the right mode. Plus, I don't see why you would want to change it. Then there is an exception, or there are several exceptions actually, of Beyblades that cannot be disassembled for a mode change. So back to Josie Spriggan. Josie Spriggan and Spriggan Requiem, they have an ability where they can go from right spin to left spin. Well, guess what? Josie Spriggan and Spriggan Requiem cannot do that anymore. Legend Spriggan can, because it's not as powerful. Legend Spriggan is more of an aggressive layer, but Spriggan Requiem and Josie Spriggan are more defensive. And if you're able to change the mode after seeing your opponent's Beyblade, then it would just be too powerful, because usually, like, this is already a really overpowered combo, and if you're in the same spin direction as your opponent, you might be a little bit screwed. But that actually balances it out, because they're pretty good when they're in the opposite direction as their opponent. But once they're in the same direction, it all depends on what that opponent is. Then parts or layers that have multiple parts that can be changed around, like the GT Beyblades. For Ace Dragon, you can't just go like this and just give it like the grand layer base, that's not a mode change. This classifies as a different layer because it has a different name. So think about it that way. If it has a different name, it's a different layer. So GT Beyblades cannot be changed like that. Dual Artemis and Dual Apollos cannot be changed like that. Neither can left Apollos and right Artemis. Like, you can't just go like, oh, yeet, and then just, yeah, get left Eclipse. No, you can't do that. Because it has a different name, so you can't, it's not actually a mode change. So then, what's the next thing I have down? Oh, we're about to end this soon. So then the next one is Revive Phoenix and Dead Phoenix. You can't just go swapping around the parts in the middle of a match. You can do all of these things, like changing the GT Beyblades, like the layers configurations, change the armors on the Phoenix Beyblades, and like change the Eclipse bays before the match. Like before you introduce your Beyblade to the judge. But once you show the Beyblade to the judge, if the name changes, then it's not able to do a mode change mid-match. So then, the last rule, which actually I was not prepared for this. Okay, here we go. Is actually of the worst disc. The 12 disc. The meme review. The 12 disc actually has to be used with a frame so that it doesn't damage other layers. Preferably with a frame that covers up the blades, because look, the vortex frame is perfect for this. Because you can barely even like see the blades popping out. Something like the under frame, like the blades are still able to pop out. And this rule was put in place because the 12 disc can actually break stadiums, break the opponent's Beyblade, and stuff like that if they're hit with the blades. So, yeah, that's a limitation that I don't think will be put into play very often. Because the 12 disc is pretty bad. It's the lightest disc in the game. And the disc's main purpose is literally just to add weight to the Beyblade. And also, like, weight distribution, whatever. But, like, it's supposed to add weight to the Beyblade. That was the original purpose. And the 12 disc is the lightest one. So, yeah, that's a limitation that I hope you don't have to suffer through. So, that's it for the tournament rules that I'll be going over today. The next video on tournament training will include tips on how to choose your Beyblade, as well as some test battles, which will be a lot more entertaining than this video. So, with that, please slice that like button, subscribe, hit the bell, share with your friends, and comment down below some comments that you'd like to see me try out in the near future. Thank you all for watching, and see you all next time.